Thanks to our sponsors, .fm, Radionomy, and Music Master. Our next RAIN Summit will be at the radio show in Indianapolis. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to going to Indianapolis in September, on Tuesday, September 9th. So we are hoping that you will join us for that. And that at our Fall RAIN Summit, we award the RAIN Internet Radio Awards. Over the past 5 years, hundreds of stations have entered the competition for the RAIN Internet Radio Awards, and we give away five awards in 5 best of categories, and that will happen at our show in September, and the entries will open up in June. So watch RAIN News for more information about that and participate as we celebrate excellence in our industry. Even we don't know what they're going to talk about. Well, I mean, we have their decks now, but we didn't know until we received their decks. We really do leave it up to them. But we do know that our next speaker is a really smart guy with a lot of good ideas. So I'll let him do the talking. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice President and General Manager of ABC Radio News, Steve Jones.
Hello. Well, actually, I think, Jennifer, this what I'm going to discuss comes out of a conversation that she and I have had a couple of times, which is really when you're with one of the big media companies, a legacy company, ABC Radio, and by the way, if you look at Art Volo there in the back, the man who is there's the runway. Turn around, folks. Art Volo there, he's got the ABC Radio logo on his sweater. A little marketing tip, if you give Art a sweater, you'll get 10 or 11 years of marketing out of it. So, that was really smart of us to do that at some point. So this is really narrow. I'm not, the big macro was Kurt. I'm going to talk about some things we're trying to do. Some of them are a little grand. Some of them you're going to see we're stumbling. And maybe you'll take away a few lessons on how to do things a little better than we've done. But first, a little just background on our operation. We're the largest radio network in the U.S. We have 1,800 radio stations. We reach about 68 million people aggregated every week. It's a large number. You really do need, I really have to point this at the back. There we go. And we create a lot of audio. So essentially, it's mostly short form, but as you can see, 100,000 pieces of audio each week. So when there's big breaking news, business is good for us. I mean, people come when there's, unfortunately, something that captures their interest, so like a tragedy, which unfortunately occurred this week. And I want to use this as an example of how we were able to work with digital opportunities to drive listening to a level that we hadn't previously experienced. So the Fort Hood shooting, we had our reporters and went on live with coverage, and that coverage was heard on broadcast radio all over the U.S., but it was also streamed by many of those stations. So WBAP, the big news talk legacy station in Dallas, is streaming our coverage, and iHeart is the platform that BAP is on. So iHeartRadio sent out a push alert notification which drove their millions of installed listeners with that alert to hear our coverage on WBAP. And they got it out pretty quickly, and the results were pretty phenomenal. And that quote sort of describes the view of Larry Linietsky, who's the iHeartRadio SVP. It's essentially like we jumped into the cars and we just wrestled the radios away from them. Have you guys ever met Larry Linietsky? If you want a visual of what that would be like if Larry Linietsky were to jump into a vehicle and do this, he's basically commandeering the vehicle. So, and there were things about this story that made it very successful. So how successful was it? Basically, WBAP, it out-cumed, sorry, let me go back. In 30 minutes, they out-cumed their entire week in that coverage. So that's outstanding, that's phenomenal. Or to put it another way, if you were to take their average quarter hour with broadcast radio in that particular evening, it was a multiple of 20 to 1 of digital listeners coming to have that experience. So that was pretty phenomenal. And this was a somewhat unique story. I would qualify the shooting at Fort Hood as being a little different. It was a picture-poor story. You didn't have a live camera from the scene, people showing you images of the shooter, and it was unfolding. One of the keys in that alert was it said that this is an active shooter we're going after. In fact, our affiliate in Houston, News 92, where they were on the air, and they were surprised the TV affiliate wasn't on the air. So it really sort of benefited us when it came to mobile. So we have all of these people that are listening, and the question is, how do we get them to come back to us? And that, of course, is the real challenge. It's really, there is no, we heard earlier some great examples of relatively new and innovative companies like Swell that are trying to do new things with recommendation. But when it comes to spoken word, I contend, there really is nothing that takes content and matches it up with the psychographic, the demographic, and in a really smart way helps you find out what would be of interest to you. So an example of that would be, apologies. I was riding with my wife in a car recently, and there was an opportunity for her to find out how great her day was going to be. The fact that I was in the car with her wasn't enough. And so, basically she was prompted whether she wanted some voice directed horoscopes. So asked her sign, etc. And we know that primarily horoscope listeners are female listeners. So what didn't happen in this transaction for her was, at the end, she wasn't pushed to some other female targeted content. Now, of course, so in my dream world, she would have been directed to Good Morning America, and then up would have popped the audio of Lara Spencer, who would essentially try to drive her to listen to pop news, and it would have been a very serendipitous ride. We all would have been happy, but that didn't happen. And to me, that is the primary challenge that those of us that create spoken word content face right now, is some sort of recommendation capability that can be scaled up. That really can be scaled up, that is going to allow us to experience the many, many ways that we can reach listeners that we don't currently reach them. So, okay, I want to talk about some things we're doing as essentially the digital audio representative for the ABC television network. So we've tried to take the incredible engagement that television viewers have, in this case Dancing with the Stars, 14 million viewers each week, and build an audio experience for them. And what we've done is we've created a station that is dedicated to Dancing with the Stars. We talked about going granular earlier in some of the panels. Well, this is pretty granular. It's clips from the show, but we have somebody backstage who's getting all of the interviews that are otherwise not surfaced anywhere else with the celebrities and with the dancers about all sorts of things going on. There's a huge undercurrent of sexual tension that goes on that show, for those of you wondering, and we try and capture all of it. And so they have a very active social community, and they put on their Facebook page, they promote the Dancing with the Stars radio station. So we had Sherry and some of the other members, Tony, and some of the other members contributing to the show. So as you can see, they're very active on Facebook. They like to talk about what is on the show. And this particular Facebook post was plugging the Dancing with the Stars radio station. So these are the 14 million people that have already self-selected themselves as viewers of the show, and they're on Facebook talking about the show they love to watch. They're commenting, they're dishing on it, and we're telling them there's an audio experience. And the results, frankly, were not too great. I mean, we had 1,000 or so listeners to that. So we've tried some other things that are a little more directed. In this case, just 2 weeks ago, Drew Carey, who's one of the dancers, one of the celebrity dancers on the show, one of the cast members, and Charlie White, who's the Olympic gold medal winner, who also is a cast member, we spoke to them and we tweeted this out. And now Drew sent this to his 70,000 followers, and here again, the results were about 1,000 people. Not really sure why. Maybe the word sexy and Drew Carey shouldn't be in the same tweet. So now different results with the show Scandal. Does anyone, and I noticed earlier looking around, not many women in the audience here, not many women, but does anyone here watch Scandal? Excellent. So Scandal has a very active social base to it. And this particular tweet, what differentiated this content was this was exposing plot details in the upcoming show. And even though the number of individuals to whom this potentially reached via Twitter was half as many as Drew. We had 30 times the repeats and 3 times as many audio listens with Scandal. So here's another example of something that went really well and was a bit surprising. Adam Lambert and Queen. We tweeted audio out of Adam Lambert and Queen. And a key here was the fact that Adam Lambert has this rabid social base helped drive incredible retweets and consumption. A fourth and final example of this, one that didn't do too well, was House of Cards. So who watches House of Cards? I bet all the hands are going to go up more or less here. Well, this did really poorly for us. And it was the director or the producer of the show talking about insights into the program. But of course, everybody here is probably at a different episode in House of Cards, unless you've already concluded it. And so I guess that was one of the reasons why it didn't do so well, because if you've already passed that point, you no longer have interest in perhaps what the producer of the show is saying. So here are a couple of examples just to sort of conclude this that were more promising for us. And in both of them, they really allowed us to intersect the broadcast radio opportunity with digital radio. So it was the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. You guys all know that, but you may not know that the very first bulletin that JFK had been shot came from ABC Radio. And so we had all of this great archival audio, and we decided to create a 2-hour show that went back into our archives and took all of the original reporting and sound that hadn't really been heard, and Diane Sawyer did a show, and we turned it into a 2-hour broadcast radio show. The hook here is we took additional bonus material and we created a special program for Audible Books, the Amazon company. And in the broadcast radio show, we told the listeners that if they wanted to dive deeper and feast a little further on this incredible content, they could go to Audible and they could become a subscriber. We also had Diane and George Stephanopoulos tweet this out to millions of their fans. So that probably helped. At the end of the day, we had thousands, over 10,000 listens of the Audible program. And for us, that was meaningful because you had to become a subscriber and there was actual revenue generated in that relationship. So the final example here of how we're trying to figure out how we can use broadcast and digital effectively, especially with the television brand. Do you guys remember the whole Kanye West, Jimmy Kimmel dust up? Basically, Jimmy Kimmel had done a spoof of Kanye doing an interview, and Jimmy had children pretend that they were Kanye and the BBC interviewer, and Kanye went crazy on Twitter, and he started going after Jimmy Kimmel. So this all happened in the evening, and Jimmy Kimmel realized in real time what was going on, and so he addressed this in his monologue. And so we already have a relationship with iHeartRadio where the Jimmy Kimmel monologues can be heard on iHeartRadio. And so what we did was we alerted Clear Channel, and they knew, of course, that all their CHR and urban shows the following morning were going to be talking about this. There was a mandate to every morning show, Clear Channel owned, to basically integrate the iHeartRadio talk into their discussion on the morning show. And so we had a fantastic response. That particular Jimmy Kimmel became the most listened to episode on iHeartRadio the next day. And we got very lucky because then they went even further, and Kanye ended up going to Jimmy Kimmel and being interviewed by him, and we repeated it all again. So the result for us has been that Jimmy Kimmel is now the 6th most listened to piece of content from a partner of iHeartRadio, and ABC, in fact, our content is the most listened to partner content on iHeartRadio. So a couple of things we've learned, or at least that we're trying to get a better sense of how to address going forward. So one is push alerts. Do you guys basically, how many of you find push alerts irritating and don't like them? How many enjoy being notified of a breaking news event? So, okay, well, you're the people we want to reach out to. So push alerts can be very effective when they're timely. Brad and Rain in the newsletter I know had done something a few weeks ago where basically he criticized some of the platforms for sending push alerts out too late. And by the time you got the push alert, the event had ended, or the content provider no longer was providing content on that event. So that's a terrible experience. The second thing we realize is, earned media results are highly variable. So, if there's an active social media base, the groups may comment or they retweet some of the audio links, but they're not necessarily going and listening to the audio. And that's a huge frustration and something that we're trying to figure out how we can do better. Certainly, the one solution seeming right now is to try and drive the audience to hear something they otherwise wouldn't hear. And I didn't put this in the presentation because it only happened in the last 24 hours. But Dancing with the Stars on Facebook and Twitter yesterday promoted that we had audio that is previewing 5 things that are going to happen on Monday Night Show. Now, this is a live show. How do we know this? I have no idea. But we have 5 things that that are going to happen on Monday night. So between yesterday and today, there have been 15,000 listens, not retweets, not views of the post, but 15,000 listens of the audio. And again, some of these are very small numbers, but with 100,000 pieces of audio that we're generating every year, we're looking basically to hit a whole lot of singles. So that's essentially where we are. We're trying. We're getting to first base often, a couple of home runs, and we're out at first a few times as well. I hope some of this was helpful, and my information is right here if you want to contact me or shoot me an email or find me at the cocktail party. After the problems with the clicker, I'd be happy to have you buy me a drink and talk a little more about this. Thank you very much.